Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder how babies learn to understand words, and what experiences shape that amazing process? Well, this new study dives deep into exactly that mystery. Today we're exploring a fascinating study that looks at how our earliest word learning, even before we can speak, is shaped by what we hear and see. Think about it. When a baby hears ball for the first time, what are they really learning? Are they learning the word ball in general, or are they learning the specific ball in their playroom? And how much does hearing a word often versus seeing a specific object a lot play a role in understanding it? So the big question these researchers wanted to answer is this: how does a baby's everyday experience with words and the things they refer to shape their very first understanding of language? They looked at two main things: word frequency, which is how often a word is heard, and referent familiarity, which is how familiar a baby is with the actual thing the word is talking about. Here is how they tackled it. In study 1, they followed a group of babies for a whole year. These weren't just lab visits. They actually recorded these babies' lives at home, listening to audio for a whole day and watching videos for an hour every month. This gave them a treasure trove of information about what words the babies were actually hearing in their natural environments. Then, every couple of months, the babies came into the lab for special eye-tracking experiments. And here's the clever part. They didn't just test the babies on random words. They tailored the experiment specifically for each baby based on the words they were hearing at home. They had a set of common words that everyone heard, like shoe. These were shown with typical pictures of shoes. Then they had words selected from the baby's own home recordings. For some of these, they showed pictures of the actual objects the baby knew from home, like their own specific teddy bear. For others, they used more generic pictures. This let them compare how well babies understood words when they were super familiar with the object versus when it was a more general picture, and how this all related to how often they heard the word. And what did they find? Well, as expected, the babies got better at understanding words as they got older. But the really interesting part was about word frequency. They found that babies, especially around 12 to 14 months old, were better at understanding words they heard more often. This was clear when they looked at the baby's eyes. If the baby heard a word a lot, they'd look at the matching picture faster and more accurately. But here is a twist. They didn't find a strong link between understanding a word and how familiar the specific object was. So even if the baby saw their own toy car a lot, it didn't seem to matter as much as how often they heard the word car. To really test this, they did study 2. They took a much larger group of babies and had them do the same eye-tracking tests. But with the customized words and pictures that were originally picked for the babies in study 1, these babies didn't get words tailored to their own homes, so it was a different kind of experience. And this is where it got even more interesting. In this second study, the babies did seem to benefit from familiar reference, but it was a bit of a different story. These babies actually understood the words less well than the babies in study 1, especially when they saw familiar objects that were picked from other babies' homes. This suggests that the familiarity in study 1 was something specific to those babies' own environment. So, what does this all mean? It tells us that our earliest word learning is really shaped by our experiences. Hearing words frequently seems to be a big deal, especially around the baby's first birthday. At that age, they seem to be really tuning into how often words are used. But as they get a bit older, maybe around 16 to 18 months, they start to get so good at learning that they don't rely as much on just frequency. They can pick up words even if they hear them less often. And surprisingly, it seems like babies can generalize words to new things pretty well, even if they aren't their very own familiar objects. It is like once they get the idea of dog, they get it, even if they see a dog they've never seen before. Let's dig a bit deeper into the word frequency. You know, there are different ideas about how babies learn words. Some think they just make simple guesses and update them as they hear more. Others think they learn gradually by seeing a word used with different objects over time. But most of these ideas agree on one thing: the more you hear a word, the easier it should be to learn. This study really backs that up. And it is not just in English. This finding about word frequency being important pops up in studies across different languages too. Whether it is Mandarin, Norwegian, or Czech, hearing words more often seems to give babies a leg up. What makes this study stand out is how they measured word frequency. Instead of using general charts that say how often a word is used in all books or television shows, they actually listened to what the baby's parents were saying to them at home. This is super personal word frequency for that baby. Now, let's talk about referent familiarity. That is how well the baby knows the specific object. Like your teddy bear versus just a teddy bear. You might think babies would understand your teddy bear better, right? Because they see it all the time. Some previous research has shown that babies can get confused if the pictures are too similar. Like if you ask for milk and show a picture of milk and a picture of juice. That can be tricky for them. In this study, for the babies who grew up with the words being tested, they found that it didn't really matter if the picture was of their own specific toy or a generic one. They understood the word pretty much the same. This suggests that babies are pretty good at generalizing. Once they learn shoe, they understand it even if it is not their own shoe. But for the control babies who didn't have that tailored experience, they did have a harder time with those specific personal objects from other babies' homes. This might mean that those objects were just a bit too unique or not as easily recognizable out of their original context. An interesting pattern emerged. The impact of word frequency wasn't the same all the time. It was strongest for babies between 12 and 14 months. Before that, babies were kind of at a baseline, not really showing strong understanding. And after that age, they became much better learners, not needing words to be as frequent to understand them. It's like Teresa's sweet spot around your first birthday where babies are really paying attention to how often words are used. This idea of learning through processing is really neat. It is like babies use what they already know to make sense of new words. And every time they process a word, they learn a little bit more. This creates this feedback loop where learning and processing are constantly helping each other. So, what does this mean for how babies form categories? The study suggests that babies aren't just learning individual words linked to specific objects, they're building broader categories. They can take a word they know and apply it to new examples, even if it is not their own personal toy. This indicates they're building more abstract understandings of words early on. Of course, no study is perfect. The researchers used babies from similar backgrounds in the US. So it would be interesting to see if these findings hold true for babies learning different languages or growing up in very different cultures. Also, how babies learn categories could be influenced by how much variety there is in the objects they see. For example, dogs come in all shapes and sizes, while cats are more similar. That kind of internal variety in a category might change how babies learn. They even did a cool test with adults. It turned out adults also took longer to recognize those specific personal objects from other babies' homes compared to the more generic pictures. This adds weight to the idea that maybe those specific pictures were just a bit harder to process, rather than the baby's understanding being too narrow. So, to wrap it all up, this research gives us a clearer picture of how babies learn words. It shows that how often a baby hears a word is a big deal, especially around their first birthday. While babies are good at generalizing words to new things, the specific things they experience in their own homes play a role in how easily they process those words. It's a beautiful dance between hearing words and experiencing the world around them that shapes their incredible journey into language. What do you think about these findings? Does it make sense that word frequency is so important for babies? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more dives into fascinating science. We really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.